Okay, so let's look at Patrick Gray, right? The title of his essay is a theistic evolutionist perspective on the Bible and modern science. So theistic, theo in Greek means God. So essentially what he's doing is arguing that there's a way that the Bible and that science can actually work together. These would be theistic evolutionists, those who believe that they can work together. So for some of these readers, the Bible and biology are not apples and oranges, right? We don't need to discount biology when reading the Bible. Because there's a belief that these are two different literary genres, that the Bible is not meant to be read as history and fact. And because of that, if you read it figuratively, then you can also believe in evolution. In this approach, it's misguided to try and harmonize the biblical account with the theory of evolution because the authors had neither the intention or the capacity to provide a scientifically accurate explanation of the origin and development of life on Earth. Way back then, they didn't have access to the tools, resources, scientific facts, the discoveries, right? The evidence that we have nowadays, right? Philo believed that it was a mistake to read the Bible only literally and never allegorically or symbolically. Even St. Augustine, right? Christians sometimes make fools of themselves by insisting on specific scientific explanations of statements such as, and God said, let there be light, right? This again is saying that, they're believers, right, who did not look at these texts literally. So, proponents of theistic evolution hold that Genesis and modern science actually are compatible, right? So there's a way in which that these two literary genres are different, right? And there's a way in which, even though they're different, they can still work together. For example, the sequence of events, right? Some say, theistic evolutionists say that more or less they actually correspond to the scientific understanding of order in the way in which life developed, right? Aquatic animals, land-based mammals, finally humans. That's the same order, right? More than offering positive specific evidence for compatibility with evolutionary theory, however, it's more accurate to say that certain aspects of Genesis are sufficiently vague so as to leave the door open for such a reading. For instance, and he uses this term yom, right? And what he says essentially is that rather than yom being translated as a literal day, right, it's in fact, the semantic range is much wider, right? That it could actually be translated as an age, right? Not simply a 24-hour period. Apart from that story of Eve's creation from Adam's rib, the Bible is mostly silent about the precise mechanism by which God created. Proponents of theistic evolution argue that the laws of nature described by Darwin and his descendants are the unstated means by which God brought the various species into existence. So there's so much silence, and then enter Darwin and other evolutionists that filled in those blanks. It is, moving on to 12, it is undeniable that one's presuppositions about creation and evolution can have a distorting effect when reading. At the same time, certain theological and scientific biases can frequently promote close, careful interpretation as readers. They're keenly attuned to what exactly the text of Genesis says and does not say, as well as to what Darwinian theory entails and does not entail. Attentive, invested readers, he says, can bring to the surface critical questions which are only implicit in the encounter between the Bible and modern science. So basically then he moves into these questions, right? And this is what I want us to sort of think about, right? Are these kind of questions. Has the history of the human race consisted of rising from more primitive life forms or falling from the original state of grace, as Genesis suggests? Can the human mind or soul evolve in the same way that anatomical and physiological structures evolve? Or is any talk of non-physical evolution fundamentally different? If God creates by means of natural selection, should he be seen as a sloppy creator for tolerating all the death and extinction that's a part of this natural, lengthy process? What is a human being, and how does it differ from other humanoid forms? Can something like the soul or the image of God emerge via chance mutations, or does it require a supernatural touch? Does Genesis actually support the idea of creation out of nothing? He says evolution is about development and change, not about ultimate origin. So it's interesting, right, to think about the ways in which this passage can get us thinking about creation and the ways people try to explain creation when in reality no one was there, right? All things that are interesting to consider as we look at these texts.